Welcome back to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to Inside the Huddle. I'm Doug Skene. To my right is Ron Simpkins. To my left, the great Phil Brabbs. The show is brought to you by TheWolverine.com, and let's get into it, guys.
Let's go.
Let's talk about Saturday night, the game that never ended.
Continuous football.
It just never seemed to end. Before we get to the end, can we discuss the beginning and the efforts to try to pound the ball on first down and pound the ball on first down? And we'll get to the offensive line thing, but when you're consistently on offense now, when you're consistently a second and long, it changes the way that offense is played, the way it's called, the way it's executed. It puts pressure on that offense right away. It's difficult when you're not effective on first down.
Well, you know, one of the thing that really shocked me was we were ineffective on second down and short. We couldn't get 2 yards, you know. And when your quarterback has to be a leading rusher, it just changes the whole dimension of your offense.
Well, from what I saw, we were trying to be 46, 47G, pound it. And then when that didn't work, we turned into the 2011 team with Denard Robinson running the read zone.
Without Denard Robinson.
Without Denard, right? And it doesn't go well, Phil.
No, that's what it felt like to me. It seemed like rewind a couple years.
Yeah.
And
well, to their credit, you know what? When things aren't going well, you've got to find something that does work. I mean, it's not like they're gonna, you know, I don't think anybody expects them to just pound their head against the wall for something that doesn't work. If read zone works and it's getting some yardage, the object is to win the game.
Right.
So let's do what works. But ultimately, the second and long just makes it difficult.
But you know, the one thing we're not a pounded team.
Not yet. Not yet, Ron. That's what we were trying to get to, though.
Okay, but it hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. So we need to become one back in the backfield, no backs in the backfield, let the quarterback make the quick throws, that kind of thing, because we're not a off tackle, get 3 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards. We can't depend to get 2 yards.
But this is the question. This is the question that fans have that I think we look at too. Is that's what we know they want to become.
Yep.
Fly that fullback up in there, pull a guard around, and maul people. Yep. If you don't try it and stay with it and practice it and execute it in the game, Ron, how do you ever become it?
You don't. If it walks like a duck, it looks like a duck, it's a duck. You're a passing team. Throw the ball.
Yeah.
You know, next year you can evolve into a running team when you got a whole spring practice to develop.
See, I disagree.
I disagree too. I think you have to commit to some level.
I think you can.
You can't go away from it.
No, I don't think if
it
you
hasn't worked.
It's. I think you could do that again. You could regress and go back to, you know, building an offense around Devin Gardner to be like Denard Robinson and just say, you know what, we're going to be a passing team. But that's just going to stunt the growth of, I think, the future teams. I think because you go out there and you play and you make mistakes, but then get coached on that, right? I mean, I think there needs to be more balance, but I don't think you can just throw it out.
I just think, I'm telling you, it's like the pros. If you have to go with what works that season. Now you can evolve into something else the next season or work during, and even in college football, you can work towards it during the spring. But when you realize that you don't have a running game, teams aren't even going to respect the play-action pass or anything. They're just going to come at you.
You're right, but you can't abandon what you're trying to be. Because if you do so, there's a message sent to that offensive line, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, which is the roots of our problem offensively, that and turnovers. But you can't abandon what you're trying to be. If you preach about it all spring, all fall camp, and you're talking about how we're going to play, the message has to be consistent. No, the old linebacker over here is looking at me like you're crazy, but I'm telling you, you have to commit.
I think I was struggling when they put like 9 guys there, and it's like I could.
And still gonna run
stop the run, right? I think they should have done more play action out of that, and maybe not led with the run every first down.
There you go.
So
just on first down, become a passing team.
Yeah,
run the ball when
force
you think
them to then drop some guys back. So
exactly.
That it opens up the run. But it seemed like Penn State was just honing in on us, running the ball.
In the box
well, we're talking about what the root of our problem is: the streakiness of the effectiveness of the offensive line. And when your offensive line is shuffling around because of injury or personnel changes, you just can't get that mojo going. You can't develop that swagger that you want to get to. And sooner or later, the dust has to settle, and someone has got to step up in that unit and take over these positions so that we can settle an offensive line. You don't want to make these changes now. You want those changes made in the spring.
Exactly.
And then in the fall camp, maybe by the second week, and then you're solidified. But here we are, middle of the season,
still making changes.
And guys aren't executing.
Right.
This is not coaching. This is just execution. So execute, win the job, take the job, and grab it. So good grief, somebody please. That's kind of the way, I think former players, we look at it that way. Will somebody step up and somebody take the job?
But when you go with young guys and older guys are on the bench not playing, and all of a sudden you put the older guys in the game and they're not playing well, what do you do then?
Well, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that in the middle of the game may not be the best time to do it, but it looked like they were forced to.
Yeah,
it was either an injury that of course are not disclosed.
Right.
But there was either an injury or they just made a decision. That's not when you want to do it. But guys, before we take a break, the last thing offensively, and we've talked about it I don't know how many weeks, if we continue to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times a week, we are not going to beat anybody.
No.
You saw the difference in the first half, second half? Devin turned over the ball 3 times, 2 interceptions and a fumble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 in the first half.
3 in the first half, and then he didn't turn over the ball in the second half, I don't think. And the game, it's a whole different ball game. Whole different ball game. So I mean, if we would have been turnover free the whole game, I think we win by 2.
We win the game.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like we are now. We're talking about how they're improving.
Yeah.
And how they're getting better. Instead, we're having to talk about a lot of other weak points.
But I think one of the turnover reasons is he's put so much pressure on himself now to try to make plays. Did he think he has to make that great throw every time? He's fumbling the ball, getting hit, those kind of things.
It could be.
But, again, a good running game takes all that pressure off your quarterback.
Absolutely it does. When you're 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 6, now it's a different deal altogether.
Different,
yeah, your playbook options are different. Your quarterback is feeling better. It takes the pressure off. So a lot of things that have to be addressed and fixed out there. Guys, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what it's like to play on the road, the differences, and maybe in that environment that it could have had a factor. We'll be back from the Arena Sports Bar in Ann Arbor in just a moment. Welcome back to the Arena Sports Bar in Ann Arbor, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by TheWolverine.com. Guys, let's talk about how this game ended. The overtime, what led to overtime, 50 seconds, 4 plays, touchdown. The young freshman comes in, stribling, mistimes his jump, in my opinion. I'm not a defensive back. I never coached defensive backs. I'm really good friends with the coach that coaches defensive backs, but I don't pretend to know the technique there. But it looked to me like he just mistimed his jumps.
He did. He really did.
Is that simple, Aaron?
And it happens like that. When you got, that kind of pass situation, it's almost, you almost want help over the top. And especially a receiver like that, and you thinking that you're going to get help over the top, that you play it a little differently. And I think that's what really happened. I think he was expecting help over the top, didn't get it, and it looked like he misjudged the ball, but I think he was expecting some help over the top.
Yeah, I was unfortunate. The young kid, I'm not going to beat the kid up. He's a freshman.
Right.
You're going to make mistakes. It's a difficult atmosphere to play in out there. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the overtime. Let's kind of fast forward through the overtime. The kicks. Phil, was it just me, or on the kick that was blocked, was that a little slow? Was it a little slow?
I didn't look at the speed. It was a low kick. Right?
It was a low kick. I think it was a low kick. I didn't think the pressure up the middle was extraordinary.
No, I didn't.
No. I didn't look at the I didn't have my stopwatch out. I mean, it just looked like it was a low kick.
Just a low kick, but so it was a bad kick.
I would say it was a bad kick.
It was a bad kick. So there's that one, and then let's talk about this philosophy, because we've kind of heard this since the game. Do you just center the ball and put the whole thing on your kicker from first down, and you're not even really thinking end zone, or do you continue to go for the end zone? Personally, as a lineman, man, we wanted the game on our shoulders. We wanted to go for it. Let's just pound it in there, do what we do best, and get it in there. But Phil, being the kicker, what goes through the mind of a guy on the sideline when you know the whole philosophy is we're just going to center it and let you kick it?
I was never put in that situation where they just wanted to rely on me to make the kick. I mean, Gibbons has done such an amazing job. He had such a great turnaround from his first 2 years to the last couple years. It's a lot of pressure. I mean,
no doubt.
A lot of pressure. And you're not looking at like a 30-yard field goal. You're looking at a 40-ish yard field goal.
Realistically, yeah.
You know, that's not a gimme. And in that environment, playing on the road, knowing kind of how the team's been playing, and there's a lot of pressure, and you have high expectations. I got frustrated right at the end of the fourth quarter where they started playing conservative on defense.
Right.
Just rushing 3, putting 8 guys back, letting the guys sit back and throw the ball downfield. I felt like they took that same attitude into overtime. You know, they fumbled the ball. It's like, let's just go run this down their throat. Our offense was playing well in the second half.
Yeah.
Let's move the ball. Worst case scenario, you got to kick a field goal. Best case scenario, you get out with a win with a touchdown.
Yeah.
I just felt like they gave up a huge opportunity to score a touchdown and win the game. And if you don't get that, you kick. Instead, they said, you know what, we'll take our odds with kicking, which to me, I do the math, and it's like you get a better chance of winning the game if you try to score a touchdown.
Right. It's almost, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah.
Go
Our offense was playing so well. The thing is, let's keep doing what we were doing, you know, and try to get either score a touchdown or get down to the 5-yard line and let them kick an extra point or something like that.
Yeah, it's almost looking back on it. Why don't you just line up right in the middle when they spotted the ball in the middle of the field and just kick it then? Because it seemed to me that there was just the attack was going to be, let's just center it and let him kick it. And I thought, you know what? Personally, I sat and I thought, it's a big kick, it's a long kick, but this kid's money. He's going to hit this. And it didn't work out that way. And now in hindsight, we all pound the table and say, why didn't we go for the touchdown? It's easy to say that from hindsight, but I personally thought, this guy's hit kicks like this.
I was feeling for
Not
Gibbons.
that day.
You didn't feel it? You weren't feeling it? I had confidence.
But as a kicker, I was feeling the nerves, right? The nerves started, you know, as if I was going to be in there to kick that. And I'm like, as a kicker, you want those opportunities. There's no doubt in my mind, but that Gibbons wanted that kick. But it's like, man, why?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you're the kicker and you're in that situation,
yep,
and you're watching your offense, and you don't know what the philosophy is, that they're going to just center it and go for it, they go for the kick. Are you begging for a first down? Are you anxiously waiting for them to put the ball in the end zone so that it doesn't fall on you? Or are you watching the pressure mount with each passing down where they don't get the first down?
You want to win the ball game. You're just like every other kid on that field. You want to win the game. But you also know that the closer that ball gets to the uprights, the
better chance you have of making it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want, say you need to win by a few points, you're playing basketball, do you want to just shoot a long jumper, do you want to get the ball close to the hoop? Do you want a layup? You want a layup. And so I think by them actually saying, you know what, we're just going to kick it, I think it put more pressure on Gibbons than whether they would have just tried to get a first down and didn't get it. He comes out in the field. Now he's thinking about it. They're relying on him, which is fine, but I feel like that's more like an NFL style approach than a college.
But
19,
all
20,
of us
20
know
year
too,
old.
that didn't lose the game.
No,
offense and
did
defense plays we didn't make, you know, but the average fan, their idea of football is he was the last guy on the field that had a chance to score points, so he blew the game for us, you know. But it's not that way.
Yeah.
We know if the defense would have stopped them, if the offense would have got the ball closer or scored a touchdown, then we don't have to wait for that kind of situation and hope that we make a field goal to win the game.
I think we could clearly say that in that game, there were plenty of opportunities, offensively and defensively. Dozens of opportunities that led up prior to those kicks that it should not have come down to that. I agree with you. And like we've talked about and dissected it before. Guys, let's talk about some of the challenges of playing on the road. This team and under Coach Hoke, they've had their struggles on the road. And we can go back and share about our careers. And you know, we were talking a little bit before we came on. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, we used to really enjoy and look forward to going on the road. And I would say at times we played better on the road than we did at home. What about when you were out?
Yeah, well, the thing that comes to mind to me were the Ohio State games. and they always turned the hot water off at the hotel. They gave you reason to get, motivated. Okay, we're going to really get these guys. Now they turned out. And those little simple things like that, really made traveling, more of a challenge to you.
Yeah.
So, you knew they were going to turn it off.
Us against the world, man.
It was. So it's like, okay, we got how many guys we got on the team right now, it's us against them, the whole stadium. Even though we got our fans rooting for us, the whole idea was, okay, us. These guys right here with the uniform on, we're going to decide the fate of the game.
Did Coach Schembechler ever use the phrase "park the tanks"? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Park the tanks.
Yes.
And I remember it because it was still around when we were there, and we were fortunate enough to have his last few years. On the road, it was always references to the world against us. And we're going to invade Columbus, and we're going into East Lansing, and the buses would pull up, and he'd stand up and say, "Park the tanks, we're taking over." And we get off the bus, we were ready to tear the stadium down at that moment. So it was all this leading up to when you leave Ann Arbor on the bus to go to the airport. I felt like it was this great unifying feeling in the air, like we're going down there, and we're going wherever we're going.
Yep.
We're taking over, stand back, protect the women and children because we're here. And, we don't know what the feeling is down there with this team. I don't know, but
that's true.
We'd like to think that it's something similar. Well, the game itself at Penn State in that atmosphere and how loud it was. We talked about it in the previous shows. Penn State is second loudest, second rowdiest to the horseshoe. How much of an effect does that have on the kicker, on the defensive backfield or I can tell you for an offensive line it's very difficult, but how much of an effect does it have on the kicker when he's standing there and the game comes down and the whiteout's going crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more challenging. I mean, it's like when you're shooting free throws, you have those crazy things in the backboard.
Oh, yeah.
But you've done it a zillion times.
A zillion times, right?
I mean, it's easier in the big house. Why? Because you practice there more. You're more comfortable with the environment, the uprights. You just mentally, you've done it a zillion times in the big house. And you go to Penn State, it's your first time ever kicking there, right? It's like golf, First time you ever go to a new course,
Right.
You don't get a lot of practice there. So it's definitely more challenging. But I'm with you guys though. Anytime we went on the road, it was like you felt, especially down in Columbus, you start getting those middle fingers like a half hour, 30 miles.
Half hour, the day before, man.
With the plane lane.
Well, we had the buses, right? And you just start seeing the middle fingers from children, grandmas, and like swimming on the road, I just felt like, man, because we're competitive guys, right? And it feels like everyone's against us.
Right.
I just think as a competitor, as an athlete, you love that. You just want to go out there and you want to play.
And let's be clear, we're not pointing any fingers and saying that this current Michigan team is not competitive.
No.
I think this thing goes back to, again, you're on the road. How many guys, and I can tell you in that offensive line, how many of those guys had played in that environment? Not all of them. And then when you start rotating guys in, there's communication problems. You can't hear. It is a factor to a degree. And on the flip side of that coin, if you have a veteran offensive line that's been through those things before, it is a big difference.
And on defense, the whole thing comes down to hand signals now. As opposed to being to communicate and talk to each other, now you got to give hand signals and hope everybody else passes it along. And see, in that situation, we talked about the pass, underplaying the pass or whatever. If the safety didn't relate to the corner that, he was playing over the top, then that's when you get those kind of mishaps too.
Yeah, well, I can remember Michigan State University, Columbus, Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa. I mean, this league is full of great stadiums and fans to play in. It's not going to get any easier in these road environments, so we're going to have to find a way. These players are going to have to find a way to rally and get that feeling that, hey, man, let's just go over and park the tanks, take over. We'll be back from the Arena Sports Bar here in Ann Arbor momentarily. Welcome back to the Arena Sports Bar in Ann Arbor. TheWolverine.com presents Inside the Huddle. I'm Doug Skene, Ron Simpkins, and Phil Brabbs. Guys, we've talked about some of the criticisms and some of the negatives through the game, and there were plenty of things to point at and say, we've got to fix this or else. Let's talk about some of the things that were positive, and I'll start off by saying that when Lawan went down, but when he came out of the game and Schofield went to left tackle and the young redshirt freshman Magnuson went in there at right, I thought the kid played well. I was watching him in his pass sets, In the pass blocking, I thought he was effective. He didn't give up a sack that I remember. Of course, I was screaming a lot, not paying attention at times to the television, but I thought he did well. For all intents and purposes, I thought he was just as effective as Schofield, for the most part, at the right tackle position. So that's a good thing. And then offensively, did you notice? You've noticed, but Devin Funchess no longer. We'll just get rid of the tight end role. He's no longer a tight end, but they moved him out. So there's another bright spot, Ron.
Now he's a deep threat. Gallen is more of a possession receiver, and Funchess with his size. I just wish he'd make those catches, the routine catches, that will give us a chance to really make him put him at the next level as far as receivers. Because he has so much talent that he splits the defense, and a lot of times he just doesn't catch the ball deep. And when he makes those catches, he becomes all Big Ten, all American. You start talking about him with like the elite players in the country.
And this guy's got the talent to do it, Phil. And what do you think about the other advantage of moving him out? It creates more opportunities for other tight ends in the middle.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the first second weeks we talked about how it was just Gallen was our only wide receiver. We had Dilio, who could do some short routes, but we didn't really have much beyond that. But with Funchess going out, you got Gallen, who's reliable. You have Dilio, who runs great routes, who's reliable. But then you had, Jake Butt made some catches, and it's going to open him up as well. So now I feel like, we talked earlier about not being able to establish a running game. We might have to move to where we say, we're good. We're going to be a good passing team. If Devin takes care of the football,
Brent,
hey,
you just say that?
Lead with the pass.
It's not what we want to be.
I still think we can work on the run, but you got to open up the lanes. The best way to open up the lanes is get guys to drop back.
But the passing game would allow the running game to become more effective.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm not saying we move and we do we go out of shotgun and we do the crazy, hey, who's got the ball? Okay, Devin. I'm not saying we move to that type of style. I'm saying we do some play action. We hit Jake Butt, we hit Punch. We say, you know what? You guys got to play some defense on these receivers, or we're just gonna take it down the field. And that's what I want to see. I want to see play action. Pass down the field, Funchess. Hey, if you're not,
I don't think there's any doubt we're going to see Funchess on the edge of that offense more,
right?
And more Jake Butt and more AJ Williams. They've got to get better. But so let's just drop the tight end position marker for number 87 because
make him a hybrid.
He's an NFL kind of body out there on the edge, and he can run with those guys back there. It's a mismatch. We talked about that. So other bright spots defensively. A certain linebacker returned to the lineup there Saturday night.
Ryan on the field just makes us a better team as far as pressuring the quarterback, and it makes the other players better. And he has that it factor. In relationship to rushing the quarterbacks, you talk about guys in the NFL, then when he's on the field, teams have to know where he is when he lines up, and he has that extra push technique-wise to get pressure on the quarterback. And I think it made us play better as a team. I don't know how, some way, shape, or form, we've got to be able to move him around and not believe him, lock him in at one side of the football field and allow him to roam a little bit more.
Which is what he did in the past.
Exactly.
I think you'll see that.
Exactly.
And there's no doubt that coming off the knee injury, there was going to be limited snaps for this player. So I think you'll see that. Did you see when he's on the field? I just feel like when I watch him, this kid just has that nose. He knows where to go. He just understands where that ball's going to be. And it seems like there's an energy lift out there. Was it just me?
See, I felt that. So I want to run. I played defense back in high school. We had a strong linebacker in Andrew Smith, and when he was on the field, I felt more confident as a corner because I knew he was going to be putting pressure on the running game and on the quarterback. So I just felt like I could be a little more tighter on the receiver, knowing that we had Andrew there. He was going to make plays. I don't know if having Jake Ryan just makes everyone better just by his presence.
I would agree with it.
Because the one thing we know for sure is when we were dropping and when we were rushing only 3 guys, he wasn't one of the guys rushing. Okay. And when he rushes, though, it made all the difference in the world. I remember earlier in the game when they were going for it on like 4th and 1 or something like that. He makes a knife angle play in across the tackle's face on a short yardage play. That doesn't happen. We're talking about a 6'4", 6'3" linebacker going against a 300-pound guy going across his face to make play. That's when the defense is picked up and those kind of things. So he's that kind of player, and we can keep getting those kind of plays out of him, and then start moving him around again because once you lock him into one side, then we know where he is, and we can go away from him there.
So it's not all negative. It's not all doom and gloom in Ann Arbor.
No.
There are bright spots in this team, and there are clearly things that can be cleaned up and fixed. Some of these issues are big, some of them are not so big, but there's hope. And let's talk about going forward. Where does this team go from here? We can all go back to devastating losses that we had in our careers while we were here. Picking up the pieces, moving forward, that first loss of the year. How do you move past it? And what has to happen going forward into November? And because this schedule gets brutal now.
Yeah. I can tell you, 3 out of 4 years, we lost a game and still won the Big Ten championship.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you say, you can't give up. You still got to play the rest of the game, whatever the schedule is. So, and I think with the coaches that we have and the kind of players that they've exhibited so far on the field, that they're going to continue to play hard. So that we know for sure. So we still got a chance.
Effort's not going to be the problem.
So we still got a chance, I think.
Well, with the other first loss, especially when it's a Big Ten loss, don't you think there's this, now the mulligan's over, we've got to run the table from here on out if we want to reach our goals.
Circle the wagon.
There is a level of urgency that just inherently comes in there when you drop that first game. What do you think, Phil?
I totally agree. I mean, I feel like every part of our team, I mean, Gibbons was one. We thought Gibbons was like, hey, Devin will turn over the ball. Our offensive line isn't always making the blocks, but Gibbons will never miss.
Right.
And he missed, and he missed, and he missed. And so I think, I was telling a lot of my friends about it. I said, what excites me most as a former football player, seeing these guys is they're going through that down moment. And Lloyd was always big on your character as a man is defined not when you're on the top of the mountain, but when you're in the valley.
Yeah,
You're coming out of the valley. They had 2 tough games against weaker opponents. They lost a tough game on the road. And this game against Indiana is going to say a lot about who they are as men. And I can't wait to see them get out there.
Yeah.
And I think they have the right coaching staff.
Right.
I think they got the right character. I think they're come out for the next section. I'll get into my prediction, but I'm just excited to see how they respond. And I think they're going to respond well.
Well, the schedule doesn't get easier.
Right.
The meat and potatoes of this thing is coming up. They're going to have to find a way to solidify that offensive front and let them go, barring injury. Let them play and get as much of that gelling as possible as an offensive line and the tight end. The number one factor that will determine whether we are successful or crash and burn in the win and loss column is the turnovers.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't fix that problem, it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
So
find a way to take that pressure off our quarterback, too.
The league
can't keep trying to make all these plays. You got to have running game will do that.
A running game does it. It fixes it, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Fix and solidify an offensive line. Somehow, some way, somebody step up and take control.
Right.
And that comes down to them each individually. It can't be just number 77 saying so. It has to be the players executing. Well, the league chances, the Rose Bowl is still there. Mm-hmm. Everything is still there for the taking. And they're talking about it down at Schembechler Hall. We know this. However, we also have the luxury as fans of saying what we feel like saying here.
Right.
What happens here in the second half? What happens Saturday against Indiana? And knowing what we've seen in the first half of the season, how does this team finish, Ron?
I think, like we say, I think that based on the coaches that we have and seeing how these guys play under adversity, I think we come back and we play rather well in the Big Ten. I think we have a chance to really still finish this season well and get into a decent bowl game and compete for the Big Ten championship. Because at the end of the day, you still have a chance to win the Big Ten because you don't know what's going to happen.
You never know.
You never know. Another team gets a loss here or there or something, we right back in the hunt again. And that's all you want. All you want is a chance. That's all you want is a chance.
I think they got a great chance. I mean, look at Northwestern, who was on game day beating Ohio State by 10 in the second half.
Right.
How many losses they got in the Big Ten now? 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 2, and they're one of the best teams in our division. Yeah. So there's a lot of Big Ten football to be played, and a lot's going to happen over the next few weeks. I like our schedule. I think we got Indiana at home. Indiana's one of the weaker teams in our division.
And then we have a week off.
And then we have a week off.
Right.
And one thing I've seen about Hokies teams over the last couple of years is they seem to get better throughout the season. I think that's definitely related to the coaching. And they don't get. You guys played. We don't get much time with the coaching staff. It's
right.
The season when we get all the time and interaction. And so I think they're getting better each week. I think they got better after the bye week, which when we were there, we sometimes struggled a little bit after the bye week. Got kind of rusty. They got better, played well against Minnesota. I think they're going to play well against Indiana, and the bye's coming at the right time because we're going to hit that meat and potatoes, the Michigan States.
And we need that, yeah.
You know, we're going to have some big games every week.
Right, every week.
With a lot to rise.
Well, every game going forward here, because the goals are still on the wall. Every single game is red flag, life or death situation for this team to get to where they want to be. Yep. Can they do it? Yes. In my opinion, they can if they do two things. The defense has to just solidify a few things, but the major improvements have to come in that offensive line and protect the ball. We do that, we're going to have that chance to win this league. There's no doubt in my mind.
I agree.
Phil, am I saying anything that you were
no,
because you remember you were the one that said
we still got two more losses
somewhere,
right?
And you did not count this one as one of them.
Now I am.
Good man.
But turnovers, but honestly, I think the offensive play call just killed the last game. Like, how do you? I don't know. They said what? Fitz ran the ball 27 times, got 27 yards, or something like that. So I just think, I also think we just need to be. We have to realize who we are as an offensive team right now, and say, you know what? Some of these things are not going to change from week to week to week. There's some things we can get better at, but how can we build a team around Devin's strengths, around Funchess who's stepping up, and
don't forget about Gallen.
And Gallen's
still a playmaker.
Yeah. And just say, you know what? This is what we have to work with.
Right.
We ultimately are moving this direction of, winning between the trenches. We're not quite there. I don't quite have the team.
We're winning battles and not the war.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to right now.
And so I say, we want to win every game, and so I think we do want to come offensive strategy that gives us the best opportunity to win the game. But I think primarily let's take care of the football. I think we take care of the football.
Right.
Take care of the football. Solidify that offensive line, and this team will be all right.
Yep.
You got to get all 5 of those guys doing all of their jobs. Not 4 out of 5, not 3 out of 5, but 5 out of 5 on every play, and the ball would be protected.
Great.
Any final thoughts, Ron?
No, I'm encouraged the way the defense has stepped up and rushing the quarterback, and we're making some plays, the defensive back interceptions, those kind of things. So, like you said, I still feel we have a chance to contend for the championship.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind that we do, and we will talk about it. Michigan is at home against Indiana. We'll cross our fingers that we get 0 turnovers and everything will be just fine there. And we'll be back to the Arena Sports Bar in Ann Arbor on Inside the Huddle next time. Go Blue.
Go Blue.